What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, and on Zoom, we are here with Kane of Vomit Forth. Thank you so much for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
No, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. I got to tell you, Century Media has been on a roll lately with signing some really heavy and brutal bands between you guys, Lorna Shore, Orthodox, Nasty, and the list goes on to infinity. And with the debut album out now, or coming out soon, Seething Malevolence, how was the whole process with making of this album and signing with Century Media and all that?
It was crazy. So, we actually recorded the record before Century was even talking to us at all. We didn't know what we were going to do with it. And we did a tour with two bands who actually signed to Century Media, who are our good friends, Frozen Soul, Sangusugabog.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so this record's been recorded for a while, but how we toured with both of those bands like pre-COVID, and it's a cool story because we became friends, we really like hit it off, and we were like, yo, Frozen Soul and Sangusugabog just like signed to Century, this is crazy. And while we were touring those other tours like pre-COVID, they were like, yo, if we ever do a headliner, like, you guys are coming. And we thought, you don't hold people to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But our friend, I feel like our kind of connection was like legitimate, and they took us out. And I think that's how kind of the Century Media thing started for us. And then, they put us in contact with them, and, Century believed in us, and I'm very, very grateful. It's been a hard journey just because we're not used to like a bigger label like that, but they've been super helpful. So
yeah, definitely.
But, yeah.
And I think you're really hitting the ground running with this debut full-length album. Do you feel that like the first three tracks that you released, such as Predatory Savior and the title track Seething Malevolence and so on, is that a good representation of what the entirety of the album is going to sound like, or is that just scratching the surface?
It's a really dense album. So yeah, I would say it's just scratching the surface, but I would also say that it's a good representation of what we're doing. But it goes way deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Was there like a preconceived idea of what you wanted this album to sound like? Because being that this is the debut full-length album, but we've seen a couple of things, like a couple of EPs here and there. Like, was it inevitable that the band would come into this direction, or did it kind of just happen that way?
So no, it wasn't inevitable. I mean, I at one point, me personally, I was kind of frustrated creatively, just because metal, I feel like, can be somewhat constrictive creatively. But on this one, we were like, nah, we've proven. We thought with Northeastern Deprivation, which is like a compilation of EPs, that we have kind of proven ourselves that we're not just like hardcore kids making death metal. Like we can do it. I stand by those songs. I think they're great death metal songs. I don't think they're like hardcore songs. I think they're great death metal songs. They obviously have a hardcore influence, but so we kind of proved to ourselves that we can do it. And then on this one, for Seething Malevolence, I mean, we put out a sampler with two songs that are actually on Seething Malevolence now. We did that with Maggot Stomp, but we did that on purpose so people would think that we were gonna like just stay a regular death metal band, but we were on this one. We were like, no, we're gonna pull out all the stops. So we recorded all the instruments. I went through and redid all the record, not redid it, but I like added like sounds and like harsh noise and samples and all sorts of stuff. And I also like changed up my vocal style. I tried to incorporate I wanted them to sound like crowbar style vocals, but they don't really, like on the title track Seething Malevolence, like there's a hook there. There's like it's almost like singing, and there's like a melody there, and I really kind of pushed myself vocally for that. So, and that all happened organically. It wasn't like a preconceived. We weren't like, we're gonna do this. It was just like, no, man, let's make this happen. Let it happen. Let's let it grow.
I've noticed a pattern lately, like a lot of new age death metal bands, whether it would be you guys or Creeping Death or I Am or something like that. It almost seems like they were hardcore kids who morphed into death metal. And I don't want to like say that that's a trend or anything like that, but I'm. Have you noticed that pattern, or could it just be being
Yeah.
an overthinking journalist?
No, I don't think you're overthinking it. I do. I think it is kind of a trend, but like both of those bands, I mean, they've been around for a bit. I Am's been around, and I Am. I don't think, and they never really. I'm not like insanely familiar with their discography. I think the record was Hard to Kill before
Yeah.
this one, and they never switched up their sound. I don't think. And they came. The cool thing about what's happening with hardcore and death metal, like you have your I Am, you have your Creeping Death, and you have like, you know, even I'll say Fuming Mouth, but Fuming Mouth, yeah, I'll say it, Fuming Mouth, and then you have like innumerable forms, and those are all like different sects of hardcore,
Definitely.
right? And it's not just because they're from like the same like different regions either, because you have like innumerable forms. Like one of those dudes is from Massachusetts. I'm from Massachusetts, and then you have Fuming Mouth, who's also from Massachusetts, but they are different styles of death metal. I think what it is that in hardcore, there's a really like potent social aspect to it, and I'm not like shitting on that. That's actually been very important in my life, because I come from hardcore and we all do. But there's also people in hardcore who are just a little bit more musical, a little bit more creative. They're not so much focused on just creating hardcore music. And I think that because we are all into like extreme music, heavy music, whatever, we want to see the different realms, and like that's a realm that we think is cool. So you get these great bands, in my opinion, bands like the bands you're talking about, and I really think that for me, you know, Mark from Fuming Mouth was, I mean, he's a friend, but it's kind of an inspiration because I remember seeing Fuming Mouth back in the day, and you know, it wasn't like people didn't really get it because he was playing hardcore shows.
Yeah.
But he didn't care, and he opened that door for us because, you know, Ricky, who's the guitarist, and Nick, who plays drums in Vomit Forth, they started this band together, and they were like, yo, we like Cryptopsy, and I think like Mark kind of opened the door, at least in the Northeast, for us to be like, it's okay to like death metal. You know what I mean? You can do it.
Yeah.
And you know, so I think that we definitely owe a lot to that band, and I think that I don't necessarily think it was a trend, because I mean, Fuming Mouth started a long time ago, like 2013, and Innumerable Forms has been around for a minute. I Am's been around for a minute. I would say it's becoming a trend right now.
Yeah.
But,
And I think it's a good trend too. Like, I mean,
me too.
like early hardcore, if you came in wearing a Slayer shirt, you would get your ass kicked. But now it seems like this new age of hardcore is more open-minded. You see how like these hardcore bands are touring with a variety of different styles. Like I remember when Vane was touring with Ghostbane. You know, you have Knocked Loose playing a bunch of shows like that are very, very broad and diverse. Oh, and another band I think that's kind of like Fuming Mouth in a way, because Fuming Mouth is awesome, but Rotting Out as well. I think Rotting Out is a good representation of that. And Nasty, who's also on Century.
Yeah. I don't know too much about Nasty. They're from like Europe, I think.
Yeah, Belgium.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that band, but I will say that like with like those group of kids in hardcore, like kind of like my age and a little bit younger, we all, it's become a lot more inclusive than, I mean, you know, obviously no subculture is perfect, but it has become a lot more inclusive, and there has been this melting pot of genres and people. And what, yeah, I like what you're saying. I remember when it was like, you'd get made fun of for liking like metal, or not like Pantera or something like that. Like if you showed up in a Pantera shirt, you know, you might get like moshed on hard, or maybe even like beat up or whatever. And now it's like I like that it's kind of the norm to. I mean, Terror took out Sanguisugabogg. They have Corpse Grinder on a song. I mean, and that's Terror is a hardcore band. You know, a band like Vane, which is one of my favorite bands and some of my closest friends, and I love that band so much. At the same time, they are a hardcore band, but more so in like who they are and how they are a band. Sonically, not so much. Terror Man, I mean, that's a hardcore band.
Without a
And
doubt.
for them to, yeah, and for them to like put Corpse Grinder on a song now and take Sanguisugabog out, and I just think it's awesome. I love that that's happening in hardcore.
And you led me to my favorite topic to discuss in interviewing, because I never understood, and by the way, I'll have you beat with that Pantera analogy. My first hardcore show was Agnostic Front, and I showed up in a bullet for my Valentine hoodie. So, yeah, there were plenty of tears falling that day. But, like, what is like the ultimate difference between metal and hardcore? Because in the end, I think that they're both very loud, brutally honest, in your face, relentless forms of music. I never understood how a fan of, whether it's old school like Cro-Mags or new school like Code Orange, couldn't appreciate like a band, like couldn't appreciate a Cannibal Corpse or etc. or a Lamb of God.
So I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm like an expert or anything like that. I'm definitely not an expert in hardcore, but I love it, and it's been a part of my life for a long time. I started coming around to shows around like 2006-ish with my friend Chris, my friend Wojo, and the difference there is that, and I'm not, I don't want to say anything that would like offend anybody or whatever, but with metal, there's less of a mindset there of like
having a message or something.
Yeah, like you can get very there. It's there can be a message there, but it's very like internal.
Yeah.
And I feel like, sometimes a lot of the time with metal, it's like these dark things you think about, killing people, blah, 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 stuff like that, but stuff you would never do, right?
More fantasy oriented.
Yeah, like hopefully stuff you would never do. Now with hardcore, a big part of that, other than the sonic differences in hardcore and metal, a big part of hardcore, at least when I started coming, was like, yo, we sing about who we are and what we do. We're not singing about killing some girl in a basement. We're singing about like either beating people up or which is the stuff that I kind of gravitated towards, was like the youth crew stuff about like trying to live a positive lifestyle, and being around people who were like-minded, who just like didn't feel like they fit in with society, which I think that's the one that goes for both metal and hardcore. Mm-hmm. But the difference there is when you say metal, like you can think A Bullet for My Valentine, which could also be like, that's a concert band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas like you go to a show and back when I saw, I don't know, when you would see like Waste Management or something like that, you're going to a hardcore show with a bunch of kids who are like-minded, you know what I mean? And you could talk about, like when you go to a concert, that's like a big, broad scope of people. You got stepmoms, you got stepdads, you got people who made fun of you in high school, whatever, that are going to be there. But this was a very small niche thing, and I think it was a little bit less inclusive, especially back then.
Yeah.
And it was people singing about like real life shit.
Yeah, well, that brought up that you were going to bring me to the next point, because when you look at any generation metal band, whether it would be Metallica or Iron Maiden or Disturbed or Lamb of God, mm-hmm. or Killswitch, they all have different backgrounds. Some of them did come from humble beginnings, and some of them had a fairly easy life growing up. I can't make assumptions, but some people had it easier than others. The hardcore scene, at least the New York City scene I could speak of, they were fucking street kids. They were all seeing real time shit, and that's what they sang about. Yeah. So I think that was ultimate the difference. I think metal, they had to kind of look for inspiration, whereas hardcore, the inspiration was already there.
Yeah, exactly. It's similar to hip hop in that way. But like when you talk about New York, I mean, when I listen to Victim in Pain or I listen to United Blood, I'm like, that stuff it was like kind of scary, because it's like, the difference is like when I heard Cradle of Filth, I was like, this is scary to me and it's awesome, and I can pay a bunch of money to go see Danny Filth be super far away from me and a bunch of makeup and like all this stuff happens. I can pay, back then, I don't know, like $7, and I can go see Roger Miret sing that shit in my face and probably get like punched or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was that was like the big difference. I love both. I love both of those things.
Yeah.
But
one could be more theatrical and one could be more real.
exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. And I have a few more questions going back to Vomit Forth. I love it when we get lost in nerd of the music and like 27 different bands are named. But kind of going back to the songwriting process for Vomit Forth, do you prefer to listen to the music before coming up with the lyrics per se, or do you like to, or do you sometimes have lyrics present and that could help maybe influence the sound?
I usually have lyrics present, but they never stay the same. I look at songs like I kind of have to look at things differently than a guitarist or some. I mean, I play guitar, and but I have to look at things differently now. I have to look at it big picture. So yeah, with the songwriting process is kind of like I will create a skeleton sometimes, and then we let things grow on it, and if we change, we change. And then with the lyrics, I try and fit them in, but if I can't fit them in, then I'll write. It's very fluid,
Definitely.
and especially now because we're adding different elements, different styles of music, and different elements to our music. So
some gentle love ballads in the works, maybe.
Yeah, no, yeah. The new record is like it sounds like Loveless meets like the Curb EP by Nickelback. Like, look, it's gonna be. I'm lying.
We were talking about how diverse hardcore has gotten, so at this point, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you would definitely be talked about. You would definitely be the most talked about hardcore band if you did that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They're like, wow, there's like ass rock vocals, and then like there's a lot of swirly guitars.
Yep, and then sing like your favorite hardcore music in like a Chad Kroeger voice, like "fuck the system and you can fuck off."
yeah, exactly. It'll happen.
Yeah.
No, we are pre-proing new stuff now, and it is pretty crazy. So I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited for everyone to hear Seething Malevolence too. I mean, it's like we're a different band now, so I'm excited about all of it.
Definitely. And before we go, I just want to thank you for your time and for a great conversation to end the week with. Is there just anything else with Vomit Forth that you would like to promote? I know that you're doing a tour in the fall with Creeping Death, right? Anything else you'd like to promote?
Yeah. Before that, we're going out in August. It's like kind of our first, like, it's not really a headliner because we're doing some shows like Volcano, Sanguisuga Bog, and I think that's really it. But yeah, we're doing a good run there. It's from I think the 8th to the 20th. We're going to be out, so come see us and buy a shirt, please. But I'm excited to get out there and show people these songs. So expect a new live show. Expect like a lot more cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to get out there and show people this music too. This shit is brutal, and we need this type of music more than ever now. So thank you for the music. Everybody, we are here with Vomit Forth. Be sure to check out Seething Malevolence coming out on Century Media. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.